this was just part.
How you doing? Ezra Levant's my name. I'm the Rebel Commander. That's a nickname I give myself. I'm just the president of the company. The company is called Rebel News, and every day at 8 p.m. I do a show, produced, scripted. I do a monologue. I interview a guest. And I think it's pretty good. If I may say so myself, we charge people $8 a month for it, which is less than Netflix. But there's a lot more to talk about than just fits into one show. So every day, at least during the last couple months during this pandemonium, we have a live stream at 12 noon Eastern time. I do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My friends Sheila Gunn Reid and David Menzies do it Tuesday and Thursday. And you know, I've been watching them do it out of the corner of my eye. I'm trying to do other things also when I have that time off. And they have such a great banter. They have a great repartee. They have a symbiosis. They're like a tag team. It's very fun to watch, and it's quite funny. And the two of them are old friends, and it shows, and that's just great. And they gently rib each other. It's great TV. So I apologize that I cannot give you the same entertainment as my friends, but I will do my best in my own way. Sometimes I ramble a little bit too much at length, and I defer too much reading the Super Chats, which I will endeavor to do more today. Super Chats are when you make a comment in that little comment box there, and you pay a few dollars, so it's highlighted. I see it out of the corner of my eye, and I read it. And even if I miss it, Justin, our producer, sends me a message that I can see on my computer, and I can catch up. I like going through video clips that I find, things that were just a tweet. You know, I did an interview this morning out of Quebec City, and it's on a French language radio station. I don't speak French well at all. So the host asked me the questions in English, I answer in English, and then they translate it into French. And that seems pretty cumbersome, but I think a lot of the listeners sort of understand English, and I speak extremely clearly and simply, and not quickly. So I think I speak pretty understandable English for someone who's not that good at English. I don't know if that's a good strategy. And it seems to work, because I've been invited back on quite a lot. It's Dominic Moret, who's a great freedom-oriented, humorous radio host, a real star out there. And he was very interested in my monologue last night. Can we go to the page where I list some of my questions? I'll get to my list of things. I have a list here that Justin's prepared, little video clips, we'll get to them. But I was just so pleased that in Quebec City, they're reading my list of questions that I went through on my show last night. If you go to the show homepage, apparently that's where Dominic saw it, because he was asking me about my show last night, which I didn't think he would. Let me give you an example. Yeah, I got about a dozen questions. So let's go down and I'll just read some of them. Question 1. We were told that we had to shut down society to flatten the curve. That didn't mean that no one would get sick. It meant we would slow down the rate of people getting sick, so it didn't happen all at once and overwhelm hospitals. Mission accomplished. The curve is so flat, lower than any of the best case scenarios were shown last month. Hospitals are mostly empty, so why are we still in lockdown? Question 2. I'm not going to go through all of them, don't worry. Not a single child in Canada has died from this virus, not one under 20 years of age. There are 8 million Canadians under 20. Not one died. So why have we shut down schools, kids' sports, and summer camps? Question 3, and I'm done. I'll finish with this one. To date, 312 detailed studies have been published about clusters of coronavirus infections. There is not a single case of infection by casual contact outdoors. So not a single person in Canada under 20 has died from the virus, and not a single person has caught the virus outside. So why have we shut down playgrounds and parks? I think there's 14 questions there. What do you think of those questions? If you're a Brooklyn hipster, which is a lot of the world's media, there's just so many New York, little blogs, whether it's Vox or Daily Beast or whatever, like so much of the English language media is headquartered in New York. And they're by young people, obviously. New York is a young city. New York is a city of single people. It's just too expensive and too crowded to have a family home. Obviously there are babies, there are 2 million people under age 20 in New York, so obviously people do it. But a lot of people, when they're married and have kids, they move out of the city, certainly out of Manhattan, to somewhere more affordable. So the culture of people who live and thrive in New York is young, workaholic, ambitious, single people, and they're single because it's too expensive to have a family, and they're in that part where they're just focusing everything on their careers. And the reason I tell you that is for them, the lockdown has been amazing. It's been something very interesting to talk about. They can work from home. If you're just writing news stories, you're at a laptop. You're either at a laptop at the office or your laptop at home. What's the difference? So it's like a big pajama party. They get to watch a lot more Netflix. They don't have to commute. They get to order in food from DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever. So it's really a big party when you are a 20-something, single, ambitious journalist in New York. You're at no risk from the virus yourself because no one young gets it. You haven't lost a dime. In fact, maybe you've saved money because you're not going out to bars. You're just living the dream. But that's not most people. Most people are not single, 20-something, laptop-based, workers. That's not even work by some measures. I mean, I guess it's the work I do, but. So if you're in a factory, if you're a sales clerk at a mall, if you're a waiter or waitress or bartender, if you're someone who works at a school, at a sports facility, so many things. You can't work from home. You can't work from home if you're a waitress. You can't work from home if you're, run a sports camp, summer camp. We're almost summer camp time. And so the questions I just put, why do we shut down playgrounds? Why do we shut down parks? Why are we telling people not to go outdoors? Those don't really apply to people who love being in their tiny apartments in New York City. They apply to the rest of us, though. I find it frustrating, and I think that patience is evaporating. I think the media class enjoys this virus for two reasons. First of all, they think that it's going to somehow damage Donald Trump's re-election chances. The media certainly thinks so. The Democrats certainly think so. So they love the virus. You can see this in that they actually, when Donald Trump said, oh, I hear there's a medicine called hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, and it might work. Okay, well, geez, in some ways I wish Trump never said that, because something snapped in the minds of a million opinion leaders on the left, and they said, oh, Trump says he likes a certain medicine, so I must hate that medicine because I hate everything he likes and like everything he hates. So there was this bizarre Democrat media war against hydroxychloroquine, which is the #1 recommended therapy for coronavirus, according to the doctors themselves. This isn't, there's not a political opinion on hydroxychloroquine. If you look at the word, you can see it has the same root as quinine. It's really a form of malaria meds, which may be a reason why the virus hasn't been as rampant in places like India and Africa, where A, they have lots of sunshine, and B, there is widespread use of malaria meds. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but the reaction was not a medical discussion. Oh, well, here's the pros and cons of that, or oh, here's an explanation. It was, if Trump was for this medicine, the media were against it. And I tell you this because I saw the most amazing video. There was a Let Us Go Back to Work protest on Long Island in New York. And we've had a few protests like that in Canada. They haven't been as high octane, but they're getting bigger and they're spreading. I saw one in Vancouver, which is a fairly liberal city. The ones in Toronto are getting frequent. The one in Edmonton was pretty tiny. I want to show you one in Long Island. This video is so incredible. It's so on the nose. I thought this has got to be faked, because literally every single person who talks to the camera here slams the media party, slams the mainstream media, the liars. I thought, it can't be this much. Like, I'm a huge skeptic of what I call the media party. You call the mainstream media, the lamestream media, the drive-by media, the legacy media, the establishment media, the liberal media. I say media party because it acts like a political party. They have a platform, they discipline party members, they go to war against rival parties, Republicans and conservatives. So I called the media party. And I think it exists. I know it exists. Not every mainstream media journalist is liberal, but it's just the norm. It's like university professors. It's just normal to be liberal. Some of them don't even realize it. So I saw this clip, and I want you to watch it. And at first I thought, this can't be real. Every single person looking at a reporter and saying, basically, I hate you. It can't be this much. It's almost like, I thought, for 1 second I thought, no, this is someone who's walking around with a sign saying, pretend I'm with the mainstream media and insult me, I'm making a video. Like, it was so, it didn't seem credible. But yes, in fact, it was posted by that journalist himself, and he does work for a mainstream. Like, this is real, folks. I couldn't believe it. It's too much. Here, judge for yourself. Take a look.
Thanks. I'm just trying to get by on the sidewalk, that's all.
Well, you shouldn't be here. You're fake news. You stopped airing the Trump briefings, and you keep airing Cuomo briefings. Go home, you fake news. Go home.
You're destroying something in Long Island. You are the enemy of the people.
You are fake news.
You are the
enemy. We
enemy.
all know it. You are fake news. We know about your liberal agenda. We know you want to keep your job. We get it. You're not getting advertiser dollars in right now.
You're not going to answer, so you're just going to go live.
Yes, I am getting a paycheck.
I'm very happy, but other people are not getting paychecks, and they're not getting.
You used to be a good channel at one time.
You allow people.
I don't know what happened to you.
Don't lie.
Stop.
Stop airing.
No, you're a hack.
You're supposed to be unbiased. You're not unbiased. You let so much crap fly on your Facebook page. It's disgusting. You're disgusting. You're the virus. Hey, that's
There we go. Fuck you.
Away, you're within 6 feet.
Yeah. Put me on TV too. My name is Rich. I'm going to let go.
Kevin, tell the truth, Kevin. Come on.
Fake news is not essential. 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 Fake news is not essential.
So what we talked about earlier, Kevin. Come on.
I found that amazing. And it wasn't just like one little group of friends. Like, he was walking down. What's the name of that guy again? Kevin Vasey. What was his outlet? Tell me, I want to tell people. In fact, if you go to his, I want to show his Twitter stream. I want people to know. Yeah, there he is. Thanks. News 12 on Long Island. What company is News? So he's obviously known. People were recognizing him. Oh, look, he's playing the victim. I'm overwhelmed, humbled, and honored by the outpouring of support I've received since yesterday afternoon. Thank you to everyone who has reached out. Good journalism is more important now than ever. I'm glad to see so many people recognize that. And maybe read this one. This is what he said yesterday. I'll probably never forget what happened today. I was insulted. I was berated. I was practically chased by, didn't look like he was chased to me. I was practically chased by people who refused to wear masks in the middle of a pandemic. All the while, I was there to tell their story. Here's a finished product. Tense moments while covering a reopening rally on Long Island, our Kevin Vasey was confronted by several angry protesters. Tense moments. He was almost chased. What's the difference between being almost chased and not being chased? That's like saying, I almost caught my plane. I didn't catch my plane. He was almost chased. Look at them sprinting. Well, she positively took 2 steps towards him. And he's filming on an iPad or something. Oh boy, terrified, terrifying. Who's the victim here? Well, the reporter is. Just ask him. Oh, that's just amazing. I wonder if it would be that way in Canada. I think they're fed up there pretty hard. That was just incredible. And of course, the journalist knows who the hero of the story is. He's the hero and the victim both. Let me read some super chats. Damn the damn, it's $5. TB is rampant in prisons and they aren't released because of that. Hey, that's a good point. You mean tuberculosis. I saw a video the other day. I don't know if it's probably too hard to find it quickly. I think Donald Trump Jr. tweeted it. It was prisoners infecting each other with the virus on purpose, knowing their likelihood of survival was 99 point whatever percent, just get released from prison. So it's a scam. Kerry Williams, $10. You were great, Ezra. Thanks for the dozen or so questions. Watched last night on why we are stuck with such a clueless leader. We love all the team at Rebel. Last, we all need to network. Well, we all are called a network, Rebel News Network Limited, and we are a network. We don't just talk amongst ourselves. We have comment sections, and we have activism. We sign petitions and deliver them. We crowdfund, like our Fight the Fines project. That Sheila's latest one, that's not ready to go yet, Justin, is it? We don't have any new Fight the Fines. Okay, when we have a new one, I'll show you for sure. Jimmy Lawrence, $10. Trudeau is a simp. Money well spent. I think simp is someone who's sort of like a suck up, especially I think it's used for men or young men who pay money online to e-girls who tease them but just take their cash. I think that's what a simp is, someone who's like a sympathizer, sympathetic. I think that's where it comes from. And so I don't know maybe he's a simp towards China. Am I using that right? Am I using that word right? I think so, I don't know. Ever since I got off TikTok, I'm no longer in touch with the kids. So I could be a clueless Gen Xer right now for all I know. Gabriel Mainville, $5. I would like to see you with David Menzies while you have a Battleground show. You know, I do go on a show from time to time. I certainly don't avoid the guy. I see him every other day. So yeah, I come on when I'm asked. I mean, it's his show, but I'm happy to come on. Vince Access Geo, $20.20. Is there any update on Dr. Jordan Peterson? If you talk with him or his family, let him know a lot of people are pulling for him. Well, thanks very much. You know, I won't say I was ever close with him, although I was at his house a couple times and had dinner, and he would come on our show sometimes. I think two things happened. He got super busy, like I mean insanely busy, travel schedule, and I could only imagine how many emails he got. So I'm not surprised he fell out of touch, and I don't think it was like a snub or anything. It's just he became a rock star level guy. And then he's had health troubles. So I haven't pestered him. I don't think I've reached out to him in over a year, and I'm not ignoring him. I just know, you know, he doesn't have a lot of bandwidth just to chit-chat. So if I do have an interaction with him or his family, I will certainly give him best regards. Dylan S., $2. What are your thoughts on Kanzuk? Canada, New Zealand, UK, Australia. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw the Angus Reid poll the other day, but Canadians were asked where should we put our efforts to have stronger international ties, including on trade. And only 11%, if I'm going from memory, said China. The US, the EU, and the UK were the other answers. I'm fine, obviously, with Australia and New Zealand in that. New Zealand's a pretty small country. Going from memory, I think it only has, maybe 5 million people, so it's not a big place. Australia is bigger. I like that country. We have so much in common with it. And I admire they're starting to fight back against China. So absolutely, I can't think of anything I wouldn't want to do in terms of a bilateral agreement with Australia. There really are. If you took Canada, just the English part of it, you would have almost exactly Australia, population-wise, almost geography-wise, so much in common. I like those guys. Proud Boys Calgary, $5. Can Justin post a link, the daily dog vids? Proud of your boys from one cool Justin to another. Sino Partium Comunista Delenda S. The Chinese Communist Party must be destroyed. I'm glad that you're putting that at the end of all your comments, because we should always say that. I'll ask Justin if he can post that link, because they're fun videos. And I have not seen the video today. I understand that Kathy sent it in, so I look forward to seeing that. It's a surprise. I've invited Justin to curate those. Again, not being on TikTok anymore, my source for cute dog videos has pretty much dried up. Unjust on Trudeau, $2. Ivermectin, another existing drug being used for C19. look, I'm not a doctor at all, and I can't testify to what medicine works and what doesn't. It's just sort of really remarkable to me that whatever Trump says is good, everyone says is bad, even just a medicine. Truby D, 44, $20 in Kentucky. They are having nightly talks and say there are some kids aged 9 that have died from it, and say a rash or something may be caused by COVID-19. Do you know of this? I don't. And I'm not saying that there have been no deaths anywhere in the world for young people, but be aware that labeling a death as a virus death has tremendous positive financial impact to whatever institution makes that declaration. So if you're a hospital that says someone died from COVID-19, or if you're a state or a city or any other institution, you get so much money, attention, sympathy, clout, that if someone was dying of disease 1, 2, and 3, and they happen to also have disease 4, the virus, it's marked as a virus death. And maybe it was. Maybe it's what pushed people over the edge. On my show the other day, we showed that in Canada, on any given year, the regular flu and pneumonia kill between 6,000 and 8,000 people any given year. So that's still more than the virus has. And remember, 82% of Canadian virus deaths were really because of the peculiarities of our seniors' home setting. 82% were in seniors' homes. You take that away, we're at 1,000 deaths, with of course is 1,000 tragedies, but regular flu season is 6,000 to 8,000 tragedies. Hillary Waugh, oh, I skipped one. Paulo Duarte, £5. Thanks, Ezra, for all the inspiration and amazing work of Rebel News. Got your book, 5 stars, my friend. God bless, brother. Well, thanks very much. You know, my book, The Libranos, did so well. And I think I might have told you this. It only went to number 2 on the bestseller chart in Canada during the election. It wasn't until Justin Trudeau prosecuted and investigated, he hasn't been prosecuted yet, but he's investigated my book, that it went to number 1. I'm not even kidding. I mean, I thought it was a good enough book. I wouldn't say it was my best book. It did well, but it didn't go to number 1 until Trudeau tried to ban it. Isn't that incredible? Hillary Waugh, $2. Any news about 24 Sussex? Why don't they fix that? Oh, they're going to fix everything. Justin Trudeau will spare no expense if he's the beneficiary of it. Richard Summers, $14. You mentioned Rebel News, Black Locks, Post Millennial, and True North as independent news in Canada. What about Epoch News? Any others? Now more than ever, we need to know. Oh yeah, listen, I've done a few shows on Epoch Times. Absolutely, I'm a huge booster of them. In fact, that is the only newspaper I actually subscribe to, Epoch Times. Spencer Fernando is another website. What are some others, Justin? Are there others we're forgetting? I think in Canada that covers, oh, there's something I think it's called the National Telegraph. Can you Google that? And then back in Alberta, I used to have a magazine called the Western Standard, so there's Western Standard Online. If you can call those up, Western Standard Online is probably easier to find. That's Derek Fildebrandt, and an old friend of mine from Western Standard Print Magazine, to whom I sold the rights when I shut that thing down. He was involved, I'm not sure if he still is. So Western Standard Online is a good source of info. I think that's just the website, Western Standard Online. So I was actually involved with this more than a decade ago when it was a print magazine. It's a good looking website, isn't it? So that's that. And can you try and find, I think it's the National Telegraph. I think that might even be the URL. Yeah, that's it, the National Telegraph. It's a little more homemade, but I like it. They're pro firearms, China, Ocasio-Cortez. So I think they're sort of Western focused, Alberta focused even. I think they have an Aboriginal focus actually also. So I like that. I'm not as familiar with them. And oh, there was one more that just slipped my mind. It's there's little guys giving her. And absolutely, oh, there's one, that's the one. I think it's called thej.ca or something. I've never looked at it. I think Sheila knows those guys. I think they're based in Winnipeg. It's sort of a Jewish-focused website, I think, but they're conservative. I think they've always been friendly to us at Rebel News and Keen's. I think seen them in person. I hear Justin telling me they're launching a new website, so it's not up right now. So that's almost 10. Rebel, Post Millennial, True North, Spencer Fernando, Western Standard Online, National Telegraph, the J.ca. That's 7, and maybe I've left out some others. There's Canada Free Press that's been around for a long time. That's 8. Then there's the Taxpayers Federation. That's 9. You could probably throw in that super PAC called Alberta Proud, Ontario Proud. 10. So that's 10. It's more than nothing. Kaylee Longhurst, £2. Is there any Jonathan Yaniv news? I love Team Rebel. Well, a lot of Jonathan Yaniv's bullying was done through the courts. And the courts have been on lockdown too, only hearing emergency hearings. So Yaniv himself has not been able to be a predator, which is what I would describe him in a variety of ways, including going after young migrant women who have these aesthetic salons, often in their own homes, and he would show up, say, wax my twig and berries, or you're a bigot, and I'll take you to court. So when the courts are shut down, his tool of abuse is removed. I should also tell you, can you go to yanivtrial.com? I think that's the website. We are suing Yaniv. I think that's the website. Is that the website? It's hard to keep track. We have so many. Yeah. Stop Jonathan Yaniv. Suing Yaniv is about self-respect. It's about deterring a serial harasser and reining in a predator. Can you help us serve justice? Looks like we've only raised $1,000. That's not very good. So we are suing Yaniv on behalf of Keean Bexley and David Menzies, who were both physically attacked by him. Well, we'll have to do some more fundraising because $1,000 is not going to pay for a lot of legal bills. Let me just whip through some more here. Damon Dam is $2. Sell your book from your website. Yeah, that is the fallback plan, but I really want to get it on Amazon. Annalisa S., $7. Ezra, I think I need help. Sheila says I have the Korka. I think you mean the Kavorka. For some strange reason, I've been finding the Menzies a bit of a sexy man. Damn isolation. Well, I mean, when you're in the desert a long, long time, a mirage, is that a cool pool of water there? I'm so thirsty, I'm in the desert. That's gotta be a cool pool of water. Let me just go over the next sand dune. I think maybe that's what's going on, but he does have the, and you have to say Kavorka, like Kramer, the Kavorka. That's so funny. Okay, it's 12:27. I want to show you, you have the New York City coronavirus numbers. Why don't we just throw to those here before I move on? I think I've verbalized these, but if you've got those New York numbers, I think they have a graph. Let's look at the graph. Yeah, okay, that graph right there. So that's New York, this is New York City, right? That's cases, so that's flattening the curve. Click on hospitalizations. Yeah, and click on deaths. Yeah, curve flattened. Scroll down a bit, a little bit further. Rates by age. Okay, cases. You see 0 to 7 years. It's so small. That's 275 cases. Click hospitalizations. And then what's the number there? 23 or 24. And then click deaths. Literally 0. So this is New York City. City about 8.5 million. Look at that. And click, how many deaths have there been 18 to 44? Just put your mouse over that. 18. I don't know why it's 18.07. I think there's a quirk in the math there. But you can download the raw numbers, which I have. So in the mighty city of New York, I think the population of New York is about 8.5 million. People, I think the median age in New York has got to be around 45, 50. So out of the 4.5 million, 5 million, whatever, New Yorkers who are under age 45, there's a grand total of, what was that number? 18. A grand total of 18 people have passed away, age 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to, that is almost nobody. Now I'm in the next category, I'm 48. So 167 people between 45 and 64. So those are Gen Xers. And I don't even think that reaches into boomer territory if you're 64 these days. So people, and then 65 is traditionally where you call someone a senior. So under 65, A grand total in all of New York, which is probably the worst city in America for the virus. Grand total for people 0 to 64 years of age. What's that 45 to 64 number again? 187. So you barely have 200 deaths, and again, each one's a tragedy in the entire, and then it ticks up a bit for seniors, but it's only really when you get to the very old, 75 and older, that the deaths come. And I'm not saying that's good, but it's good to know, because then we can focus on helping those people, protecting those people. And by the way, looking at this graph, can you tell me why schools are closed, please? Can you tell me why work is closed, bars are closed, restaurants are closed, playgrounds are closed, sports camps are closed? Can you tell me why that is? Were there a lot of 75-year-olds going out to the club? Were there a lot of 80-year-olds going on in the monkey bars? Were a lot of 90-year-olds in kindergartens? Why are we shutting down the healthy economy that's not protecting the sick part of the population? All right, thanks for showing me that. By the way, I use that data because it's very, as you can see, very well presented, very easy to click on, very updated and reliable. I rely on that. I find it reliable. The statistics for Canada are very similar. The curve has been flattened. 2 more super chats. Heather Skinner asks, can you please stop clicking the pen? Yes, I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't even know I was clicking the pen. I'll stop. It's a great pen. It's got 4 colors on it. I'm going to put that pen over there. I'm going to take a non-clicky pen. Thank you. Old man, $5. Ezra, do you know the Young Turks are now using the name Rebel HQ? I think it's very disturbing. Well, I mean, maybe they're inspired by us. I don't think they're trying to confuse people. Are they trying to tap into that brand? I don't know. The word rebel predates us, I got to tell you. In fact, a lot of Americans think rebel is something about the Confederacy. Some people say rebel, is that like Lucifer rebelling against God? No, it's not that either. It's just rebelling against the media, mainstream media, against the old technology, against the old media cartel, against the old narratives. That's all I meant by rebel when I named it. Okay, how are we doing for time? It's 12:32. I wanted to show you, so I had a Joe Biden moment there. I was clicky, 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 clicky on this side. I didn't even know I was doing it. I'm not going to call that like a seniors moment. I'm going to call that just sort of a distracted, fidgety moment, like a doodle also. But you know, every time I forget someone's name, and it happens, you forget a name. Or forget something. I forget names sometimes. I say, oh, Joe Biden moment. I make fun of myself and I'm making fun of him. So Joe Biden, so he's there, he's doing these Skype interviews, and he was doing this interview. And you know, sometimes in prepared sort of town hall formats, they go out and they get questions from a man on the street, or in this case, they would get questions from people at their home webcams. So they go out there, they get a bunch of average citizens. They're rarely average. They're usually pre-selected for some hidden demographic. Usually they're leftist activists. So they got some guy to record a question, and they said, we're going to play the recording now. And Joe Biden started trying to talk to the recording. Oh my God, it's a short clip, but it's so funny. Here, take a look at this.
This first question, Mr. Vice President, is from a voter in California. Let's listen to this. Okay.
Hi, Vice President Biden. My name is Naveed.
Hi.
I am from San Mateo, California, and thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this town hall with you. I'm right now thinking about that.
I just took a bite when the camera was off. I'm sorry. He was talking to the video. It's a video, Joe. It's a video. He wasn't really there. Joe Biden had something else to say. I'm sorry, my mouth is full. I thought I had a moment longer. You know, once I was being interviewed by Alex Jones of InfoWars, and when I was talking, the camera panned on him, turned to him for a second, and he reached under his desk and he took the largest hamburger I've ever seen. It was like the size of a Frisbee. I've never seen, where do you get a bun that big? But when I was talking, he reached under the desk, pulled out, it was this big, And he took a huge bite of it and he tucked it away. And he was trying to do that when I was talking, but the camera clicked on him. It was very funny. Anyways, here's Joe Biden being pretty blunt about what you should do if you believe the sexual harassment allegations against him by his former staffer, Tara Reid. Take a look.
That, what would you say to them about their vote?
Well, I think they should vote their heart. And if they believe Tara Reid, they probably shouldn't vote for me. I wouldn't vote for me if I believed Tara Reid.
You know, fair enough, it's an honest answer, but I don't know if he's going to get away from that credible claim that was corroborated in some ways at the time. So it's not someone who suddenly invents a complaint decades later. Let me read a couple super chats, and then I got this great clip from LA, or somewhere in California by Fog City Midge I want to show you, but let me read some super chats. Paulo Duarte, £5. What are your opinion about having Greta as part of the COVID panel? Well, is there anything she's not an expert in? I've never learned so much from a teenage high school dropout in my life. There's so much I can learn from her. I kid you not. Talk about fake news. I mean, she doesn't even pretend to be an expert or a scientist, and then she's put on these expert panels. It's quite something. In fact, we got a clip from Keen about that, don't we? Why don't we play 60 seconds, what you think is the best 60 seconds? Kean Bexley has been following Greta quite closely for over a year. He, in fact, went to Stockholm and asked her questions directly. But here, take a quick look of Kean, who's sort of our Greta expert, talking about Greta.
Boy, oh boy, does the story ever change rapidly when you're a part of Greta Inc. When you're on Greta Thunberg's PR team, you have to make sure that you're adjusting the narrative whenever there is global outcry. And boy, was there ever global outcry last night. Greta Thunberg was being sold by CNN as a coronavirus expert. She was going to be appearing on a panel, and she actually still is appearing on this panel, Coronavirus, Facts and Fears. Now, Greta Thunberg has never been great with facts, but she certainly has the fears department covered. Just like when she was being sold as a climate expert, and the global elite and the leftists were all too happy to take her by their side and sell her for something that she wasn't, CNN is now doing exactly the same with the left's favorite young child. Greta Thunberg realized that this was not going over well. Over 30,000 tweets appeared on Twitter of people laughing that she was being sold as something that she wasn't. Now, Greta Thunberg's PR team kicked it into high gear this morning in North America and in the afternoon in Sweden, saying that she never was an expert. She was never being sold as an expert. She's here to talk about something else entirely. But you can understand why people would think that she was being sold as an expert, because she was. Greta Thunberg was going to be standing on this CNN town hall panel next to the former Secretary of Health and Human Services. If you're not from the United States, a Secretary of Health and Human Services is basically like the Minister of Health. On top of that heavy hitter, Greta Thunberg was also going to be standing next to the former director of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. So you have those two heavy hitters, and then you have Greta Thunberg. And CNN was acting like Greta Thunberg was going to actually be a thoughtful contributor, like she was actually some sort of expert here. You can't make this stuff up. So Greta Thunberg, of course, goes to Twitter to say, tonight I'll be interviewed by CNN to talk about the new campaign supporting UNICEF during COVID-19 and about being an activist in a world altered by the coronavirus. It seems some people thought I was going to be on an expert panel, which of course has never been the case. Of course, Greta, how could we have thought that the former director of the CDC and the former Secretary of Health and Human Services were experts, and you were just, for some reason, sitting on a panel with them? How could we have thought that they were experts? This doesn't make any sense. This is our fault, Greta. We realize our mistake now. Greta Thunberg has always sold herself for something that she's not, like when she says she was an environmentalist. When I saw her Tesla in Edmonton, Alberta, when I was interviewing her in that viral interview that exposed her for what she is, we saw the inside of her Tesla that was donated to her cause by Arnold Schwarzenegger. We saw the inside of it that exposed her for what she is. There's a Greta on the outside, and then there's a Greta on the inside. Greta says over and over again that we shouldn't be eating imported goods, we shouldn't be using plastic. But on the inside of her Tesla, there it was. Plastic goods, plastic water bottles, plastic grocery bags, imported crackers from Sweden. You can't make this stuff up. The mainstream media wouldn't be telling you this, of course. CNN was trying to sell her as an expert. But we've exposed Greta before. We've exposed her in Greta Inc., showing exactly who is behind her and the entire industry, the entire green globe.
What a great job. Kian does a really good job on that, eh? Yeah. I mean, another point I would have made, but I didn't make it, is put yourself in the shoes of, what's her name, Sebelius, the former Health and Human Services, and the fellow from Centers for Disease Control. Those are people of great accomplishment. I mean, you can disagree with them ideologically, and I probably do. You can be a liberal, a conservative, Democrat, Republican. But I don't care which stripe you are. If you are the head of Health and Human Services, if you're a big shot at the Centers for Disease Control, you are someone of accomplishment, probably, of talent, probably of some wisdom and knowledge, and maybe you're even a doctor yourself. Imagine telling someone who used to be the head of Health and Human Services, as Kian said, that's like being Minister of Health in Canada or the UK. You'll be on with expert 1, 2, and 3. Oh, and we've got this teenager. How dare you? Imagine saying, yeah, I'll go on that panel. Why would you do that? Why would you agree to be on the panel with some mascot? That's even more embarrassing. Carol Lyons, 714. Thank you, Ezra, David, and Sheila, for the daily updates. I've enjoyed watching, but I'm back to work next week. Woot, woot. Well, I'm glad you are. That's very good to hear. Unjust on Trudeau. While the curve is flattened, my curve's fattened. Oh, my God, don't even get me started. I see that Frank Luntz, the U.S. pollster, claims to have lost 50 pounds over the quarantine. That's amazing. He obviously has discipline. I don't. Paulo Duarte, 2 pounds, and that's why I love Rebel News. Yeah, wasn't a great video. I was looking back over our best videos in the last 365 days. And a number of them are Kian's on the Greta file, including, if you haven't seen it yet, you got to go to GretaInc.com, GretaInc.com. It's a great video. How are we doing for time? It's 12:42, okay. I showed you that protest on Long Island. That was just unbelievable. I think that's a sense for the mood of the country. Hey, can you get that Barstool Sports vid by Portnoy? You know the one I'm talking about? You want to talk about the mood of the country. Well, I mean, America's always been more freedom-loving than Canada. We're rather more passive up here. There was someone out at a Get Back to Work protest. I don't know if this is in LA. I know Fog City Midge is based in San Francisco unless she's moved. So she interviewed a black Trump reporter and Trump himself retweeted it. I just want you to see the video because it was so great. Here, take a look at this.
Were you a Trump supporter from day one?
Not at all. I believed everything the media told me. I believed, I drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And it got to the point where, the type of person I am, I like to know why I don't like someone. I was told that he's a racist, but let me get some evidence, right? So I can be able to debate Trump supporters when it comes down to this, and I can be able to beat them down with facts. Started doing my research, and I was like, okay, well, I agree with that he said. I like that what he said. I like that policy. I like this guy. I think I'm going to go ahead and rock with this guy. So that's what I started doing, and I haven't stopped.
Justin just told me in my ear that a commenter said, Ezra, those New York City numbers were per 100,000 population. If that's what the chart says, I accept that. Thank you. But here's the thing. Oh, yeah, good call. Per 100,000 people. 0 is still 0, right? So look at the 0 to 17-year-old. It's 0. It's nothing. So I take your point. Thank you for that. That's actually a very important correction because that would make those numbers 85 times smaller. But 0 is still 0, and that was my main point. For the next demographic group, 23 or something per 100,000, that is more significant than per 8.5 million, but it still shows how tiny it is for people who aren't very old. Okay, so what do we got? Black Trump supporter. That Long Island video was amazing. A couple of Biden pieces. Here in Canada, and I'm doing my monologue, I'm writing a monologue for Monday about this. Actually, I'll do it for today. I think our Conservative Party has been pretty weak. It's been weak since Stephen Harper left it, let's be honest. Andrew Scheer was weak. Andrew Scheer said he would step down 6 months ago. He's still there. That's weak. Mid-December, it's been more than 5 months. He's still there. Why? Weak. The party looks like it's done its best to stop people from running. $300,000 entry fee, disqualifying candidates because they say something too edgy. Isn't that the job of the leadership of voters? Why is some secret cabal of party insiders taking people off the ballot? That's really weird. They've done it twice now. It's sad because we could really use some strong opposition in this country to how Trudeau is handling the virus, the fact that he's in a fake self-quarantine, the fact that he's spending money on a faster rate than anyone I can ever point to around the world, that he's giving money away to the World Health Organization, giving away foreign aid, that he's breaking his own edicts on social distancing, that he's the one job he had, secure the borders, he failed at. There's so many things there. His sucking up, his simping to China, his abuse of Taiwan. Like there's 20 things to go on. Open borders immigration, temporary foreign workers, there's so many things. Where's the Conservatives? I don't know, and it's too bad. But there is one Conservative MP who I think is doing a good job. Of course, he's overshadowed by the fact that, of course, if you're the media, you'd rather speak to the party leader, even if he's on his way out. But Pierre Poilievre has been doing a really good job, and I want to show you one exchange in Parliament. And last I looked, this had about 500,000 views on Twitter, so the word is getting out. Take a look at Pierre Poilievre versus Bill Morneau.
Mr. Poilievre. The total liabilities of the Government of Canada.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to support Canadians through this time with support not only for businesses but for individuals to get through and get a bridge to a better time.
Poilievre.
Just the dollar value.
The Honourable Minister.
And that's a continuing commitment, Mr. Speaker.
Poilievre.
I know we shouldn't ask the Minister about numbers. He's just the Finance Minister after all. But what is the equity of the Government of Canada's on the Government of Canada's balance sheet?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would advise a member of Carleton to memorize those Auditor General figures for his next foray into the House of Commons.
The Honourable Mr. Poilievre.
So the Minister has claimed that our balance sheet is strong. There are three components to a balance sheet: the assets, the liabilities, and the equity. And the Minister doesn't know any of the three. So clearly he doesn't actually know anything about our balance sheet. That's reassuring. Now, according to the Auditor General, the negative net worth of our Government of Canada will be as much as $1 trillion by the end of this fiscal year. Can the Minister, if he's familiar with any of these numbers, tell us, is it possible his government will hit $1 trillion of debt this year?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure Canadians that our approach will be to continue to make investments on their behalf, and that is available to us because of our strong fiscal position, but we will continue to take that approach, which we think is the appropriate approach.
Absolutely. Poilievre.
$1 trillion, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we will continue to focus on the importance of supporting Canadians.
Mr. Poilievre.
What is the size of our current national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
And Mr. Speaker, I think that what will happen as we do that is we will allow ourselves to have a stronger economy at the end because of these investments.
Poilievre.
The size of the national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
And we have always seen, Mr. Speaker, that these investments, they're not only supporting Canadians, they're supporting businesses so that we do have a strong economy and a strong fiscal position coming out of this position.
Mr. Poilievre.
Does the Finance Minister know the size of our national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
The interpreters. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to focus our efforts as we believe we should focus them on supporting Canadians through this time.
That goes on for quite a bit. I loved his questions about prisoners getting the virus payout benefit, even though they weren't working, they're just getting free money. What an embarrassment Bill Morneau is. Shifty. Dumb? Hard to say. But shifty is worse than dumb, don't you think? Some more super chats. Paulo Duarte, another £5. Thank you, the authoritarian Marxist power-grabbing leftists are the real virus. Wayne Swiddick, when can I get the Chinese army vaccines? $2. You know, it's so funny you say that because that really is what's happening. Can you call up that Globe and Mail headline? Or it's actually reported widely. Not only is Canada spending money on a Chinese virus vaccine program, but they're letting it be tested here in Canada, and it's in conjunction with the Chinese army. And you know, I've been looking into this a little bit. Yeah, thanks. Look at that. Canadians to help develop, test potential COVID-19 vaccine from China. Hey guys, we're helping. We're helping. Is the word army even in there? Can you do Control F or Apple F or whatever, Command F? Is the word army or military even on this page anywhere? Do you know how to? It is there at the top? Oh, I see. So you search army. Can you search military also? Military. Yeah, thanks. I sort of knew, but thank you for checking, Justin. This is in conjunction with the Chinese military. You wouldn't learn that if your only source of info was the CBC. Jessa, I'm going to send you, actually, I'll just tell you. So this is using HEK293. That's the National Research Council in Canada has something called an you can Google that if you want, HEK293. That is a cell line. What is a cell line? Like it's human cells. That's from aborted babies. So, yeah, cell line origins, cytogenetics, and expression. HEK293 is a cell line derived from human embryonic kidney cells. That's what the HEK stands for, human embryonic kidney cells. You know, where are you going to get a human cell? Well, from a baby. They call it embryonic because it's an aborted baby. So let me just, this is the absolute purest, perfectest Justin Trudeau project I've ever heard of in my life. Taking our tax dollars, giving them to Communist China and the People's Liberation Army in particular to study a vaccine that will surely be mandated in some way, that is being tested on Canadians. I love that CBC head. Canadians help. Is that what you call a guinea pig? And just the chef's kiss on top of the whole thing is what's Canada's contribution here? Aborted baby tissue. I can't think of anything more perfect for Justin Trudeau than that. There's just, like, it ticks every single ball. The only thing we're missing is some Aboriginal angle and some gay pride angle, and we have your perfect royal flush of Trudeau moments. Vaccination, government money, China's military, aborted baby tissues. I mean, it's just, of course. Well, I see an incredible super chat coming in. Jennifer Siegel, $200. Unbelievable. Why can't there be a huge personal penalty for refusing to answer a question in Parliament? You know, it's funny you say that. I used to work many years ago, more than 20 years ago, I used to work in Parliament. I was the legislative assistant for Preston Manning when he was a Liberal, when he was the leader of the Reform Party. So that's way back in the 20th century. And my job, in particular, one of my jobs was question period preparation. I would draft many of the questions for the different critics in the Reform Party. We would have a practice, ask the questions, practice them, and then we go down. And it struck me as a curious paradox that it was not against the rules of Parliament, parliamentary procedure, to lie. It's not against the rules to lie. But it is against the rules to call someone a liar. Isn't that interesting? You can get up and tell a lie or obfuscate, as you saw Bill Morneau do there. And you saw the Speaker of the House, next, next, next. Not even, hey, can you give an answer? No, next. But if Pierre Poilievre had stood up and say, you liar, unparliamentary language, will the member please withdraw and apologize? Isn't that curious? Not against the rules to lie. Yes, it's against the rules to call someone a liar. Amazing. Jennifer, thank you for that very generous donation. I appreciate that. Not a bad account, $1.99. How would mandatory mass vaccination be enforced? Well, you know what? Theresa Tam answered that question 10 years ago in a National Film Board documentary called Outbreak. I think I referred to it before. Can you grab that clip? Outbreak was an interesting, I watched the whole thing. It's about 2 hours. I watched it on YouTube at double speed. You know you can do that on YouTube video. If you click the settings, you can watch it at 1.5, 1.6, however fast you can go and still understand it. So I really enjoyed the movie. I watched it in double time. It was the history of the smallpox outbreak in Montreal in 1885. I didn't even know about that. But they juxtaposed it with a theoretical, hypothetical scenario of a modern smallpox outbreak in Montreal today. And the scenario was some flight attendant brings it in from London, gets sick, and then the hotel housekeeping staff who cleans her room gets it and she dies and it spreads. I thought it was an interesting way to A, tell the story from back then, and B, as a thought exercise, I have no objection to the creative imagination of what would it look like today. The whole thing was so very, very eerie to watch in the light of a pandemic that's actually happening. And I have to say, that film board got a number of things correctly. But one of the things that was just unbelievable is that one of the experts interviewed in this documentary was no one other than Dr. Theresa Tam, Justin Trudeau's pandemic point person. And listen to this clip of her. This is a few years ago at the National Film Board. This is before the coronavirus. Here is she talking about arresting people, putting them in internment camps. I swear to God, for not taking a vaccine. Listen.
I think the public has to know this is one of the worst case scenarios in terms of an infectious disease outbreak, in that their cooperation is sought. If there are people who are non-compliant, there are definitely laws and public health powers that can quarantine people in mandatory settings. It's potential you could track people, put bracelets on their arms, have police and other setups to ensure quarantine is undertaken. It is better to be preemptive and precautionary and take the heat of people thinking you might be overreactionary, get ahead of the curve, and then think about whether you've overreacted later. But it's such a serious situation that I think decisive early action is the key.
Except she didn't do decisive early action on the one thing she could have done, which is stop flights from China. In fact, there are flights that come in from China literally every day, to this day. Tracking bracelets, police arresting people, that's what she's talking about. Let me move quickly here. Akasha off the Nile. Should be a law to answer the question. Yeah. Bill Howie, Association of Black Conservatives is supporting O'Toole. I assume because he's an ethnic panderer, whereas Leslie Lewis is about unhyphenating Canadians. Your thoughts? I'll go on at great length about this tonight on my show. I'm dispirited by the whole race. I like Leslie Lewis. I think she needs more seasoning and experience before she's ready for the top job. I like Derek Sloan. I don't know if he's got the horsepower and the national brand and national team to win. Peter MacKay feels like a liberal, and I don't think his heart's in this. I think he's busy raising his family and making money at a law firm. Erin O'Toole came in third in the last Conservative leadership race. You know, he's like a fallback choice. Feels like making do. If you loved Andrew Scheer, you'll like Erin O'Toole. What bothers me the most about him is he's become a bit of a censorer deplatformer. He was the guy who got Jim Karahalios, a Rivet candidate, kicked out of the race because Karahalios wrote an email that was mean to O'Toole. Isn't that sort of what a campaign's about? And it's not even, I mean, I like Karahalios, but that's not the point. If you can't take the heat, if you go tattle to the school marm because someone was mean to you in the playground, maybe you're not conservative, and maybe you are not going to be able to handle a rough and tumble election campaign against the most vicious party in Canada, the Liberals, and the most viciouser party in Canada, PM. Well, I did manage to cover most of my videos today. Justin, thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for your super chats, especially the large donation from Jennifer Siegel. Just unbelievable. Appreciate that. I like to end each of these live streams with a puppy video, just to make myself 10, 20, 30% happier. So I haven't seen this yet. It was suggested by Kathy, and Justin has it. I'll say goodbye now, but let's end with a dog video. That was a good one.